In part 4 of this modelling of Waterloo goods depot in Liverpool, I'm going to look at the roofs. This is where I'd got to, and I'm going to group that. That's going to be my guide, pro forma, whatever, for the walls section when I come to do it. Let's just unhide everything so we can see what we're doing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a start on getting the width of the pitch roofs which come across here. Let's have a look at the aerial photograph. So it's these plus these. If I go to the next one, this is the entire extent of Waterloo Road goods, or Waterloo Street goods, or whichever. And so that's what I'm going to have to work on. Not quite sure what's happening here. When I look, it's amazing when you keep looking at these photographs, you see things which you'd missed before. For example, that seems to be a separate shed. Yeah, doesn't appear to be here. Well, it's actually not in this photograph. It's this. It's just beyond the chimney there. It's this piece. Yeah, so it's off the photograph. Okay. So the way I'm going to do it is, first of all, I'm going to start with these three here, 1, 2, 3, and there's an extension piece there. These two end at the same point. This one has got a bevel on it. So I'm going to start with this one because if we look at the map, we can see there's the bevel. So if I go for that width and then do it 3 times, that should give me the size of the roof. And the way I'm going to do this is, and the reason I'm doing all of these videos is as I hope a help for those who are making models in Gmax for Trainz. So I'm trying to include as many sort of tips or methods of working which I employ, in the hope that some of these may be of use to others. Right, so this wall appears to be pretty much lined up with the grid, and it's going to go to there. So I'm just going to draw a box. It's got to be there, and just give it a little bit of depth, and let's have a look at the size of it. Well, 133 feet 9 inches is the length, 36 foot 7, 461 is this, and then it's just 3 foot and a bit. So I think 36.5 feet is the correct. So let's do that. And I only want about a foot thickness for the roof, 133 9 inches. I'm going to trim that back a bit because I suspect that the actual length was a little under that. It's just that by looking at it and seeing the way that that goes. So this is purely guesswork. So now I'm going to make a clone, and I'm going to give it a different colour. So the bubblegum colours are quite useful when you're doing this because it allows you to separate, distinguish. Now all of these are going to be at an angle. So we're immediately faced with, these are all at an angle, whereas these are going back, and that's at a more severe angle. So we've got to remember that. So although this is 133, what side length did I give it? 133 feet, 132 feet 12 inches, ridiculous. Nevertheless, I'm going to have to take this edge forward, and then let's do the third one. And this one I'm going to colour in, let's colour it red. Look at our picture again, and it's a little longer. I know there's a ridge there which is the edge of the roof, but this is just, it's just for this piece at the moment that I'm concentrating on, and that looks to be squared off, whereas that's at an angle. So I can leave that side, and I'm going to extend that there. Check again, it does extend further. So let's go back. Yes, it's got to come to about there. And actually what I might do is trim that 133 feet back so as to give me more length there. So let's do that. Let's just chop it back by 3 feet. Often that's just enough to visually make the difference. So this piece here, which is what I'm looking at, is going to be this piece here. It's still too short, I think. Let's take another, let's make it 125. Oops, not 1000. Let's make it 125 feet and move it up. And then that will give that a significant amount there. So I'm going to make this 125 feet as well. There we are, and move it back into position. So let's have a look here. Oops, picked up the wrong thing. Let's zoom back, and I need to click away from it. I'd like to be able to lock some of these bits and pieces in place, but I've never worked out how to do that in Gmax. If anybody knows and would like to let me know, I'd be very appreciative. Okay, so I now want to go into wireframe, because what I want to do here is to make sure, let's just have a look there, yeah, close enough. This yellow line is just a guide, my guide for actually using the, if I make sure it's got the correct texture, let's just make sure I'm correct. Let's move that over a bit, yeah. Just onto that. What I want to do here now in wireframe is to put in where the ridge is going to be, so because this is going to form the ridge of the roof. And it looks like I'm a bit out with regard to my yellow line, but that really is just a broad guide at the best. That's going to be. And let's just check our, yes, and it does chop the whole thing. It chops the ridge down. It's not for, it's the, you'll see what I mean in a minute. It's that the ridge is angled as well as that. It's not that it's across and then back. The whole ridge is back in a uniform way. So what I need to do here is, again, I tend to use boxes as guides. They're really handy. Let's just hide that one out of the way and make another box. Just a long, there we are, a delightful green. And let's rotate. Picked up the wrong thing. Very annoying. And rotate. There we are. So what I'm trying to do is create a guide for the degree of rotation, or rather for the amount that that roof is pitched back. I'm not making a very good job of this, am I? Let's try that. 55, that's I think too much. Let's take it down to 54. Please. And let's have a look at that. Yes, I think that looks good. So let's zoom in and get my position. And I'm using positioning on the corner of the next roof. Okay, and I'm going to push it up 10 feet vertically. And it's got a, because I've still got the, I can just take that. Doesn't really matter because it's all going to get eliminated. Now, what I want to do here is to edit this mesh, and at the moment I am using the edit mesh and keeping the original nature, or the original type of model, type of mesh. I'm sure the primitive, the original primitive. Let's go in there a bit, tidy this up. And this one. I'm going to pick the whole thing up. Y. I think that's okay, yeah. And this is going to form the start point. I'm going to adjust this one to bring it all into line. So let's go back and just adjust these vertices again. Bring it in on top of the green. Okay. Now this of course is 1 foot thick, so if we look at it end on, which I'm sort of thinking is this way, it rarely is. That's the wall we're looking at. Here we are. These are roofs. And the one we want to look at is this one. Okay. So let's just double check here. Is it maybe that one that we're wanting to? I think it's this one. Let's make sure we've got the texture correct and wireframe it, yes. And now at the moment this is our pitch of our roof, and looking again here, it's a fairly substantial pitch. Let's take it up to, if I take it so the center position between those 2 points is 10 feet. Let's have a look at that. Have a look down here. Does it look like we're reproducing that roof? What I'm going to do is move this guide out the way, and let's just sort of judge that according to the photograph. Oh, I think we're pretty close. Yep, I reckon. Okay, so now I can work on the next one. See, I'm some way in from the yellow line, but I'm going to check again. Because it's so heavily pixelated, I think the yellow line is actually throwing me off a bit. But let's first of all move that. Move our green guide over to here. Let's try and get that into the angle. That looks about right to me. That's 14 degrees. Okay, so using that we can go into wireframe and let's enlarge that, make that the main part of the display, and let's maneuver this, make sure we're spot on the sharp edge, sharp point, and now let's pick this one up and move it down into position. Let's zoom right in as much as we can. This is one of the annoying things I found in Gmax. It jumps about all over the place if you're not careful. Let's just try with that. X and Y. At the closest zoom in, it tends to be a bit. I find it's a bit. There we go. Let's jump over to the left. Maybe it's just me. Okay, and the Y coordinate. Let me see if it's that one. No. Okay, so it's virtually on there. It's close enough. I'm not going to try and muck about with it too much because the length. Yes, there we are. Right, now we know that that one's okay there, so straightforward. I'm just going to move these. on the x-axis over to our guide. Just zoom in a bit now. And obviously I'm making these roofs on the ground at the moment. The bottom of the roof is on the ground. But it doesn't matter because we're going to raise the roof in due course, but it means I can make these fairly consistent. Now I know that I raised that last time to 10 feet, so we've got that one. And we just repeat the process now with our next bit of roof. I'm just going to move that up and then along our guide, and our next bit of roof is going to come down here, and then I'm going to move it just fractionally to the left, and then increase our lengths. And this time, of course, all three have to be moved. Right, so this isn't very accurate. That's the wrong way. Don't leave enough up the top there. Yep, there's plenty. So, vertices. This one. When you zoom right in, it does, not as sharp on the joints as I would be, say, on a locomotive or a piece of rolling stock. On a building, you've got quite a lot of latitude. You can get away with a lot. I mean, this is me zoomed in to the closest that I can be in Gmax there. I mean, I'm well within, that's within a square foot. So we're talking fractions of an inch, which on a building this size is no great deal. And actually now what I can do, I can just grab that and put it up to 10 feet. Okay, now hopefully that's given us our set of those first three roofs down the bottom there. Let's have a look at our photograph. First one, let's enlarge that. Move our green guide away for the moment. So it's 1, 2, 3, those three. The next one is the same width, I think. Going back quite a bit further. And just holding a ruler. Now obviously you can't see me doing this, but I am doing it. I'm holding a ruler up to the screen to give me a measure of about 38 mil, and then I think this is double. No, it's not quite double, it's 70 mil. So if that is 38, that's 70. So the proportion is 3.8 to 7. So we'll work that one out in a minute. But there's a fourth one to do, and for this one all I need to do, I think, is to clone. Not in that direction. Clone in that direction. Up here. And I can just move this into position because I've already got the angle, the road angle. These buildings, when you start off, you sort of think, oh yeah, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? It looks like a rectangle, and it'll just go into that position very easily. But it's only when you really start working on them and you look carefully at photographs that you realise, well, no, it's not quite as simple as first appears. And boy, does the Liverpool Overhead Railway throw you some curved balls. We've had quite a few. So this is the one I'm looking at the moment. I think that this is all the one roof. So, and then there's an extra bit at the back. So I'm going to increase that. Take this mesh back to about here. Let's check again. And it's much more than that, isn't it? Maybe. Where am I on it? Minus 162. Let's try minus 165. Oops, that's the wrong one. 96.1 minus. So it's. Let's try another 6 feet. Take that 6 feet off. There we are. And then at the end of it is a smaller, narrower piece, narrower roof, which I'll put in just a moment. So that will give us, that's given us that quite nicely. Does the narrower piece, see, it's a lower roof, so it's like a smaller version of these. So if I take a clone of this one, and okay, and I'm going to give it a different colour, and I'm going to move it into position. In fact, I've got that curved piece there, so I don't really want that. So just for lining it up, with butting it onto the end of that roof, I'm just going to turn it right round, bring it over. Let's zoom in, looking wireframe, and I'm going to keep the width, but I'm going to reduce the height. No, I'm not going to do either of those. I'm going to reduce the height and reduce the width. But the first thing I'm going to do is take the height down from 10 feet down to 8 feet. And then I'm going to use the proportional change just on the one axis. I think we want the Z x-axis. There we are, and I'm going to pull that in until it's more or less parallel. I'm looking down here. Let's have a closer look, just to get a better look at it. Now it does mean, of course, that I am keeping the 1 foot thickness there, same as there. And now if I move that over to there, let's have a look. It's obviously too long, so I'm going to take that back now and let's have a quick look again. It's quite a long, may have to take it back a bit more, that's maybe not enough. So I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to take the height down first, from 8 foot down to, let's take it down to 6 foot, let's really make a statement. And then I'm going to proportionally reduce this, keeping low. That allows me to keep, by doing it this way and in only this one direction, it allows me to keep the correct thickness, the same thickness for the roof, more or less, as, well, it will be the same as the main bit of roof that it's going to join onto. There we are. So it's going to go there, and that looks a lot more, yeah, it's just over the, maybe a little wider than that, but it's just over the ridge. There's the ridge, I think, of this roof. I'm prepared to let it be quite a substantially narrower one. Maybe I've gone too far. I've taken it down 57, 56, let's say I'll take it down to 60. Try 65 and pull it across. And just make sure that I think that's okay. Yeah, and then this one, I'm going to raise that, not by a guess amount, but by tying it up with that. And now that'll be an extension to that shed, and it's more or less on the line. And I'm going to take it back, take these back to, just see how the squares are. So it's take it back to 0, and this one to 0, and this one to 0. I think it's important to get these roofs as reasonably looking as I possibly can, because they're going to be the main thing you're going to see in trains. When you're looking down on the model, I mean, we're always on the route, we're always sort of in trains, it's very much like a model railway, you have a sort of eye in the sky. There we are, and obviously I'm going to close off all these ends eventually. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is to extend this box lengthways. I'm not worried about its rotation or anything, I'm just keeping that, but I'm going to extend it. I'm hoping this will work. Let's just keep an eye on it. Let's extend it to 150. Yeah, so let's extend it to 250. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is because of course I want to use it for the next roofs. And if you remember, it was 3.8, proportion of 3.8 to 7. 3.8 to 7. That's going to be important because it's just not getting close here. So that's the guide for the next 2 roofs. The reason why that's important is because if we look back at our original box, the width of it was 36 foot 6 inches. Okay, so if I go into the calculator, 36 multiplied by 12, where is it, plus 6 inches. I'm sorry if this is, you know, really silly. 3.8 equals multiplied by 7 equals divide by 12 equals 67 foot and 3 inches. Run this video back again if you don't follow what I'm doing there. But what I am doing there is I am making the width of this box 67.3 inches. 67 feet 3 inches. And that's going to be the width of my new roof, which blows this, of course. Not worried about that at the moment. Let's just move it into position. And let's give it a different colour. Make it another bilious colour. And let's have a look at our photograph. So we've done these 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to do these 2, and they go right the way back to where the bridge carries the road over at the back of the goods depot. So the length is going to be substantial. It's actually going to go right back to about here, I think. Let's have a look on our map. Well, there's some open bit here back in the day. Check again. It's really awkward because I think it's fairly close to the bridge. So it's these 2 that we're looking at. 1, 2. See, now in this picture they certainly don't look like they're right back at the road bridge, which is coming here. That's the tunnel to Edge Hill there. The road is coming here, and the track where it went, there's just you can just about make out a little black bit above the hand. which is where the bridge is. So I shall take these to here. So let's edit that mesh first of all. Let's move it on the x-axis over to here. And in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it, I like to move it to 239, but no, I'm going to make it 240 feet. Keyboard trying to leap off the desk. Okay, and let's get the angle at the front end here. Now this is obviously the entire roof without any detailing on it at all. There's no windows in it, and in fact what I'm going to do is I will punch a hole using the Boolean function to create the holes for the windows. Or if that isn't satisfactory, and it isn't always satisfactory, we're a fair bit short now, then I shall use these as a guide and recreate them with the skylights in, whatever they're called. Yeah, skylights I think. And they're going to be useful because we want to be able to see inside our depot, so I'm going to put in as many as I can possibly get away with. Okay, so far too flat. Okay, let's look at our picture again and see if we can get any guidance there. Well, I think they're almost in the same proportion. If that's 3.8 to 7, I think the height may be 3.8 to 7 as well. And the height was 10 feet, so let's go back to here. Let's clear that. So it was 10 divided by 3.8 equals, multiplied by 7 equals 18 foot, let's say 18.5 feet. So let's move that. This is why it's useful to work with these on the ground at the moment, because you can just do the heights very easily. What did I say? 18 and a half, 0.42, let's say it's 0.5, so 18 and a half, so it's at 10 feet at the moment. Let's try 18.5, see what that looks like. It's obscured by our green guide here, so let's push that up 30 feet out the way, 50 feet. Let's hide it. Okay, so we're looking at the relationship between this roof and that roof to see if we're about right. There to there. So maybe a bit strong. Let's change that. 18'6", let's take it down to 17 feet. It's very much just how the eye sees it. And of course, this whole picture is vertically distorted anyway. I think I'm happier with that. I think that looks better. Now, by doing this, by as it were making a domino effect of roofs, I'm assuming that I'm going to fill this in correctly. I assume I'm going to be in the right spot when I get to the end, and if I'm not, and we pull back and get all these ones done as well, then obviously I'm going to have to start stretching up and increasing the widths of these. In fact, looking at that now, that looks, that second one looks just dark there, looks a tad wider. I'm going to hold the ruler up against the screen again so you can't see me doing this, but I measured this one at about 7. Yeah, that's 8. So I need to go 1/7 wider. Oh joy. And it's at the moment it's 67.3. So if I say 67.25, because remember we're working in divide by 7 equals multiply by 8 equals 76. If I take away 76, I know I've got 76 feet, and that's the number of inches, so I multiply that by 12. 76 feet 10 inches, 10.5 inches. Don't like that. I'm going to call it 77 feet. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to clone this one the long way. Well, as always, I always do the long way. Okay, and I'm going to give it another colour. That's pretty hideous. And let's move it back. And what did I say? 77. 77. I'll remember that. Is it the same height as that one? I think it might even be a shade higher, and I'm prepared to do that because I think it will make it more interesting. So instead of it being 17 feet, it'll be 18 feet. It's nice to have a bit of variety. I can't believe these defos are all made in a very uniform way. So that green almost sort of disappears, doesn't it? Let's give it a different colour, a bit brighter. Now we know that that angle is correct because I'm following that angle all the way along. And hopefully I'm going to be more or less in the right place. I mean, it's widening up as I go. Hopefully I'm going to be in the right place when we get to the top. We get to the Oil Street, great name, Oil Street boundary. Although at the moment, let's have a look on the map. Yeah, may have to change the angles on those, but that doesn't matter. Won't take long. And these, remember, it was 240 here, so it's 223 at the moment, so I'm going to take that up to 240 to bring it to the end. Let's check our photograph again. Yep, they are together, and you can see there's quite a lot there of roof lights. Slightly smaller there. Here, a lot of roof lights. So it's going to, whether they were actually clean or glazed or fully glazed, it doesn't really matter. They're going to be fully glazed on this model. Okay, so we're beginning to get the roof. It's beginning to come together. That's our bit of the wall, by the way. Down here, doesn't really matter. I suppose I could just hide it, couldn't I? And if we unhide the box, let's just have a look. That 14-degree rotation might not be right. Let's just pick up our, and let's make it very long. Let's make it 500 feet long. And let's go here and see where we are. No, we're going to be out by the time we get to here. Notice, by the way, there's a bevel there. Let's look at our, we can't see it on this one, certainly not on that one. This one here, that's just curling back. You just see it there, those are all on a line, and then this one sits back a little bit. I think it's here. There are two tracks that come into the station, and at the moment, that's an interesting point. At the moment, these may be wrong. I may have to change these. They're coming in here. See, I wasn't paying attention. And yet we've got this whole block to come in. No, I know. I realised. They came into this one. They did come in. The two tracks that are underneath the Liverpool Overhead Railway, which were in this picture, is here. It's not very obvious, but it is. It's the whole of the LOR. And they came in here. There we are, that's where they came in. So actually so I'm going to be able to, it's close enough, I'm not going to worry too much of it, but on my SketchUp plan, or my sketched plan here, that they come in a bit further north, because on this original, they do come into this, under this roof, and they're right on that edge, so we're pretty close, I'm pretty close. Pleased at that, gosh dear. Alright, okay, so let's try and sort this out. Just don't think it's right, is it? It needs to be just a little bit more. 14, let's take it up to 15 and see how we go there. And to move it about a fair bit. I'll make it longer. I'm just a little bit out there. It's quite close there. How are we doing up here? 15 is 15. There we are. 0.2 a degree. I think is correct. So let's just move this a bit and see where we are up here. That looks good. That's why that yellow guideline can be a help. Okay, so now I need to just tidy up these vertices. Just go in a bit and bring them over. Actually, where the roofs butt up against each other, if there is a little bit of variation, I'm not too worried, because when I do come to put the frontage on, I'm quite happy to have the frontage going, there being a bit of variation in the depth of the frontage, because it adds to the interest. And nothing is absolute. It's only modern concrete and glass blocks that have this degree of uniformity. So although it's a few inches, you can see that's a square foot there. Although it's a few inches, I think it's worth getting it right at this stage, because it will then guide the positioning of other things as well. I'm actually quite pleased about where those tracks come in. I seem to have hit it more or less right, which, working as I am from dead reckoning and guesswork and a couple of pretty grainy photographs, is not bad. It will certainly convey the impression of the goods depot as it was. Let's just do these other vertices fairly quickly. Just tidying up, really. This is part of the process. So I know it's a bit like watching paint dry, but let me just do this so that I can then show you overall how the roofs are going. And so this is going to be roofs part 1, this video, because I'm going to, what is it, how long is it at the moment? 3/4 of an hour long at the moment. No, we want to go, no, we want to go X, thank you. And here we definitely need to adjust this one a bit on the y-axis. because that's the last one anyway. That's good. They're not looking too bad at all. That's the next, yeah. Really quite pleased because getting these proportions right at this stage saves having to rip it apart and redo it at a later stage, which, believe me, I've done. Herculaneum and Seaforth. LOR stations leap to the mind. Okay, let's have a look at that. So there's my guide, so I can lose that, hide that away. And so to conclude this video, let's have a glance at where we are with regard to the map. With regard to the photograph, just take that down a bit, out of the way. We can zoom in. So this is the part that we've been doing, or I've been doing this morning. And let's move over a bit, close that out of the way, and bring this back. And so we've got the bevel there, that's that one, we've got the first one here, and then the next, there's two there, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, rather, 1, 2, 3, then the slightly larger one, and then the largest one, and that's where the tracks went in. So we're not far, that's close enough as far as, Trainz is not going to be that precise by any means. So that concludes this video. It's the first bit of doing the roofs, which will give me the proportion, and then I can start adding walls. This is a great modelling buildings Gmax, where you want to get the roofs done first. You can just float them up in the air eventually, which is what I'm going to do with these, and then put the walls in. So if you have any queries, comments, suggestions, or just sort of like want to say well done and keep at it, make sure I save this, then please do post, and you're very welcome, and I'm quite happy to answer queries about how to make models in Gmax, as much as I know, just as empirical knowledge. And look out for the next video, which may well be tomorrow.